This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network from the Iowa Pork Tent here in Des Moines at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Coming up a little later on in the program, we're going to be talking with the guy who just wandered off camera a second ago, Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. He's over here flipping burgers with us as well, and we'll talk with him about some of the things IDALS has got going on this year at the fair. But first, we're going to talk with the folks at agmarket.net, find out what the numbers are doing here at the close.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Well, we're at the end of the trading day, and we're talking with Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. And Curt, starting off, the grains say they started out kind of high and then they went a little bit lower. Is that where they kind of ended up today with the corn and the soybeans?
Yeah, we finished a little soft. We thought we'd have a little bit of an Olympic sprint higher towards the end of the day, but it just didn't happen. Corn's down 2 cents on the day. Soybeans down 5 3/4. Wheat ended up a little higher on the day, up about 4 1/4. Just not a whole lot of enthusiasm as we start to prepare to see what next Monday's monthly supply WASDE report shows on production carryout estimates. Overall, we're starting to nail down a supply number here as we get through August, move into September. We'll see more confirmation as crop tours take place, but the crop looks fairly good. And traders are expected Monday to see a slightly lower acreage number, a little higher yield estimate. But the thing is, on the ending stocks, new crop ending stocks on corn's average guess is about 2.1 billion bushels. Average guess on bean ending stocks is 470 million bushels. So that's not positive, and the market's kind of dialing that type of scenario in. Old crop, that's been pretty well put to bed in through here. Don't know if we'll see a whole lot of zigging and zagging there because we're just a few weeks away from new crop kicking in, and new crop harvest is actually starting to take place in the deep south. Today, we saw the commodity funds sell about 2,900 contracts of corn, 2,200 contracts of beans, and they were buyers about 1,900 contracts of wheat. They sold 2,200 contracts of meal, bought about 1,300 contracts of soybean oil. So it wasn't real heavy activity. I think most people are at the fair with you or down at the Illinois State Fair where we're seeing Ag Day take place here in Illinois. On the weekly price chart, corn finished 8 1/4 cents lower on the week. Look for this week's high, 409, to be resistance. Soybeans down 24 3/4 in the November contract. It looks like November beans need to make sure we hold $10. If we can hold $10, maybe we can have a little bounce back up to this week's high of 10.42. Wheat finished about 3 1/2 cents higher on the weekly chart. Wheat's trying to build a base in through here to get something to go. But the overall market activity is just kind of lackluster, especially after we saw some sales this morning. We sold 132,000 tons of beans to China, 100,000 tons of meal cake to Colombia. Then there was a bean sale at unknown destination, about 212,000 tons, which is Asia. So we just need to see some bigger sales in through here. If you're an old timer, the voice of the tomb is a sell date on corn, which is August 10th, which is tomorrow. So we'll see if that voice of the tomb kicks in. Dustin.
All right, moving over to the livestock side of things. Of course, we're here at the State Fair, so we know the demand is at least good for some beef and pork products. I don't want to say it too loud because the big bull is sitting right next to us. But obviously, we want to see what those cattle and hog numbers are doing. How'd they fare to round out that week?
Yeah, they hang in there. Man, this fat market's just been a wild rodeo. We've seen, last week's high of 189 on the board. This week's low of 176. We had a $12 range. On the day, we finished up 312 on the October fast, but on the week, we finished slightly lower, 92 cents lower. Hogs, they were down 260 for the week, but we finished up about 35 cents on the day. Box beef was a little weak this week, down about $5. The index kind of held in there steady. On the pork side of the equation, the market kind of gapped lower and tried to recover on the charts there. Fundamentally, the loins are hanging in there at 98 cents a pound. The hams about 96. The bellies, which is bacon, about $129. So that's not too bad for beef and pork in through here this past week. I'll be at the Illinois State Fair tomorrow, and I'll help support you. I'll have a ribeye sandwich, a pork chop sandwich, maybe a pork chop on a stick, and most definitely some ice cream.
You know, Curt, I just came back from spending an hour with the Secretary of Ag flipping pork burgers and pork chops here at the Iowa State Fair. And, yeah, the demand was at least 3 blocks long. And, of course, also some of that was for some brown sugar pork belly on a stick. So, yeah, I think I'm going to do everything I can to help support the producers out here as well. But, Curt, we thank you for the information. If folks want to pick your minds there at agmarket.net, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you all?
1-800-779-1515. Go to agmarket.net, click on Intel.
All right. Well, Curt, we thank you so much for the insight, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Good seeing you, Dustin. Take care.
Of course, you can find out more at agmarket.net. We're going to go ahead and take a look at those closing numbers on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen.
September corn was down 2.5 at 376 3/4. Soybeans down 4 3/4 at 988 3/4. Soybean meal down $7.80 at 311.70 per ton. Soy oil up 25 cents at 42.42. Chicago wheat up a nickel at 5.42 Kansas red wheat up 2.5 cents at 5.54 even. Minneapolis spring wheat up 4.5 at 5.89 3/4. Oats down 7 3/4 at 3.22 even. On the Merck, August live cattle up $2.20 at 184.25. Feeders up $4.12 at 246.50. October lean hogs up 35 cents at 73.97. Pork cutouts unchanged at 91.65. And Class 3 milk up 7 cents at 20.48.
And that's been a check of our market recap here from the Iowa State Fair and the Iowa Pork Tent. Of course, we're grilling up some great pork tenderloins and also these great Iowa pork burgers as well. We're going to take a short break here from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, we will talk with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AMPM here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network Pork Tent. Secretary Naig joining me a second time already today. Oh, we're going to start fencing now. Bet. All right. So, you know, before we get into our discussion that we had a little bit earlier about what's going on at the fair, I mean, right now this has got to be the center of everything agriculture.
Oh my gosh.
At the Iowa State Fair.
It absolutely is. We've got such a great ag tradition, and one of the best ways to experience that is by eating your way through the Iowa State Fair.
And that's what we mentioned earlier about, you know, Iowa producers and Iowa people putting everything on the table for us and here in the state and across the globe. And, of course, you know, the burgers and the pork loins. And you've been expertly, you know, checking them to make sure they're just the perfect amount of done here. Right. And right. You're doing a good job here overseeing to make sure it's up to the standards that we have here.
Absolutely. I'm not management here. I'm just doing what I'm told, you know, and Kirby and the team are doing a good job of keeping us moving in the right direction. But, you know, there is a certain amount of pressure, though, as you've got the consuming public right here. So you
can't make a mistake.
You know, can't be making any mistakes whatsoever.
And definitely a great way for them to see firsthand, you know, and hear firsthand what we're talking about. And, of course, we do talk about that here coming up right now as we talked about Iowa production and, of course, the things that are being showcased here at the Iowa State Fair. Here at the 2024 Iowa State Fair on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, talking with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. And Secretary, long sleeves today? I mean, come on.
Oh, I tell you what, anytime that you have to put a jacket on at the fair, it's going to be a good day.
It is going to be a good day. And of course, when we talk a lot the last couple months, we've been previewing what's going to be happening at the fair. You always call it the Super Bowl of Iowa Agri. Yeah. Super Bowl, not Super Bowl. That's a whole other topic of discussion. Right. Though that bad boy is just down the block there. So. Yeah. But the Super Bowl of Iowa agriculture, and of course, it's on display right now. Lots of people here at the barns and everywhere on the fairgrounds.
It is, and especially, you know, the Iowa State Fair has been an agriculture fair from its founding. It is an agriculture fair today. It's going to be an agriculture fair. Mm-hmm. And you know, yeah, there's a lot of other things that are fun to do, but at its core, you know, and we're right down here in the livestock area, and what we're seeing, you know, the 4-H kids, FFA kids, And always at its core, it was the best and the brightest coming from across the state to showcase everything that's good about our agriculture. That's still true today.
And of course, you talk about showcasing agriculture. A lot of times we've talked about this in the past. We seem to always have loud voices talking about what we are doing wrong or what we could be doing better. And now you guys are going to be equally as loud, telling folks what farmers are already doing environmentally to be sustainable, to protect the air and the water and the land. Talk about these environmental awards that are coming up.
Yeah, this really developed, over a decade ago that we started to, we wanted to recognize families that are doing the right things from a conservation standpoint. So we developed together with the governor's office. At that time, it was Secretary Northey and Governor Branstad, and today we've been able to continue this tradition with Governor Reynolds' team. But we'll recognize 44 Environmental Farm Leader Award winners. And, of course, we first and foremost, it's, they got to be doing the right things from their own standpoint on their land, and they're nominated by somebody, by the way. But they also, we typically find with these families that they've done things over the years like host field days, or they have been an inspiration for somebody else. And so we're really trying to go even another level and say these are folks that are doing the right things themselves, but they've also had an influence on others. So 44 families that will be recognized this year at the fair.
And you've seen the whole gambit of things that are being done at some of these farms. Just talk about maybe some of the things you have seen.
Well, yeah, you've got, and that's the beauty of this, right? These farms are all across the state. You've got livestock farms, you've got purely row crop farms, you've got folks that are focused on using cover crops or no tillers or strip tillers. Others that really have had a focus on traditional soil conservation practices like terraces and waterways. That's the point, right? Is that, and we look at this as from the standpoint of there's a whole list or menu of practices that can be used. How do we tailor and fit precision conservation right on the farm to address the needs of that particular farm? And so, it's not a one-size-fits-all thing, though I will say that we're really excited about the trajectory that we're on in terms of cover crop adoption, over 4 million acres now, record-setting pace for wetlands and bioreactors and saturated buffers. So there's lots of good things happening, but it's always right to recognize those that have laid the foundation to help us get to where we are today.
And why is it so important to share that story with the folks that maybe aren't involved with agriculture, especially at an event like this?
Well, and look, you and I and a lot of folks, we get a chance to travel the state, you meet these people. We see this idea, this innovation that folks have, this culture of conservation, folks thinking about these things, but not everybody knows that. And so we need to do a better job of talking about that and of telling that story. But here's the other thing I think we get tripped up on in agriculture sometimes is this is a traditional mindset. Every year a farmer is trying to do something better. It's a continuous improvement situation, and I don't think people always know that. We're always trying to use the latest variety, the next hybrid, the latest model. You're trying to change things in big and small ways that help you do a better job, and I don't think folks always appreciate that about ag. Of course, we know that that's part and parcel of agriculture.
Now, we talk about all the things that happen agriculture-wise, the environmental stuff, the animals, everything that we see here, and all of that comes down to the longevity and the stability of these family farms. And of course, the Century and Heritage Farm Program and the awards there is a great way to honor those 100 and 150-year farms. And the ones that are doing, whether it was 100 years ago, you did what was right and adapted to what needed to be done, to what we're seeing now with some of the environmental and conservation pushes. It's always been able to be adaptive, and that's what's kept those farms in the families for so long.
Well, there's just no way that you could have a farm stay in a family for 100 or 150 years or more without focusing on those types of things. At its core, conservation, profitability, productivity, innovation. The other thing we think a lot about, this is a year where I was on 2 Century farms that were just devastated by the tornadoes earlier this year, right? And something that was said on one of those farms was, this isn't the end of this farm's story. We're going to turn the page and start a new chapter. And it struck me that in the whole history of that farm, and we hope that it stays in that family for another century, that might be one of the worst things that's ever happened. And they might talk about it 100 years from now as being a horrible event, but that family was dedicated to, and they were focused on, they were going to get through that, and they were going to be better on the other end. Every farm 439 families that we're going to recognize as either a Century Heritage Farm in the historic livestock pavilion next week. And every one of those farms has had to endure something. There's been market challenges, weather challenges, pandemics, world wars, all of those things that they've had to figure out ways to get through.
Right.
And it's just a testament to the heritage, that the strength of our agriculture. And it really is my favorite day of the year.
All right, and of course, Choose Iowa. We talk about the food here at the fair and everything else. And of course, the Choose Iowa program, trying to get those Iowa-grown products, Iowa-produced products to the consumers. Great way to do this. And of course, a little coloring involved too, a little bit. So talk about what's going on with Choose Iowa here.
Well, first, I mean, look, the best way to experience our agriculture is to, taste it.
Right, exactly.
Is to consume. And of course, that's one of the great traditions of the State Fair. And whether it's a new food or the one that you got a list of the things that you got to go get before the end of the fair. Right. But this year we're excited. Kind of a new tradition or new twist for us is that we've launched the Choose Iowa brand, which you and I have talked about. Iowa grown, Iowa made, Iowa raised products. The brand is all about you trying to recognize products that are grown here. And so whether you see that on a product label or whether you see it on a menu, or that's the concept, is that if you're looking for local, you can go to chooseiowa.com and you can find these farms or these vendors that are doing this. But we all did the same thing at the fair here. There's 20 vendors here that have we've identified or we've confirmed that they've sourced an ingredient from Iowa, from a Choose Iowa qualified member, and that then they're selling that here. And so what we are having folks do is you can go find those vendors, find that product, and then there's a QR code on their a signage on their stand, and you can click on that and you can vote on your favorite, and then we'll award that later next week, the favorite Choose Iowa fair food.
Awesome.
And then also, we always have a coloring contest with the kids. I mean, gosh, we had hundreds of kids submit artwork, and we put that into a calendar that becomes a coloring book, and we give those out at the fair, and it's just a lot of fun. Always looking for those chances for kids to learn something about ag and where their food comes from, and this is just a fun way to do that.
All right, so if folks want to learn more about what IDALS is doing at the fair and keep track of what the department's doing, how do they find that stuff?
Well, find us. We're in the VI building, Varied Industries building. Of course, you can come get your official fair weight. Everybody wants to step on the scale at the fair, right?
I don't.
Beginning of the day, end of day, beginning of the fair. I think we're going to do a Rate of Gain award this year. I'm thinking about it this year. We'll broadcast that, out. And then the ag building, of course, right in the middle of the agriculture building by the Butter Cow. We've got a booth there. And of course, you can go to chooseiowa.com or iowaagriculture.gov to find out all the types of things that we're working on.
And inquiring minds want to know, it's day 2 of the fair right now. What's the shake count up to right now?
Just one.
Just one.
Governor and I toured the dairy building yesterday, and we, of course, have to end that. That's now our tradition as we end, and I had a strawberry shake. So I'm on the board.
So am I. One strawberry shake, too.
Yeah,
so.
Good.
We'll may have to make this the competition.
It was very exciting. But once a day. Once a day, I'll have ice cream.
There you go. Can't go wrong there. Secretary, thanks so much for getting us an update of what's going on here at the fair.
Thank you.
And then again, Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig, and we're getting ready to flip some of these burgers and chops. So, of course, make sure you come on down to the Iowa Pork Tent here at the Iowa State Fair. We're here all 11 days of the fair down next to the Super Bowl. And so come on down and check out everything we've got to offer there. From the IARN Studios mobile unit in the Iowa State Fairgrounds at the Iowa Pork Tent, I'm Dustin Huffman for Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and the rest of us. Thanks for listening and joining in. This is Ag Matters PM.